let's talk about talking about money. How are you guys doing today? My name is Apple, and today we are filling in the financial gap between schools and the real world. And today what we're talking about is something a little bit different, but we're talking about money. So I think this is something that is very, very critical for people to be able to freely talk about money and to be able to have these conversations that seem a little bit difficult right now. And I think there is a problem in our society right now that people are not comfortable to talk about money with other people, including their friends, their family, their spouses. All of these things, I think this is a huge, huge problem that people are worried about talking about money. And I think that there are some myths here that I'm ready to disprove. And in this video, we're going to be talking about 3 things. We're going to talk about what talking about money actually looks like, why people don't do it, and the benefits associated with actively talking about money with people. So that is what we're talking about in this video today. It is a topic that is very near and dear to me, and I think this is something that a lot of people should be doing, but people are afraid for a multitude of reasons. But without further ado, let us just hop right in and start talking about money. All right, so what is talking about money not? Talking about money is not asking your grandma for $1,000. It's not bragging about how much money you have or how much money you make. It is not making people uncomfortable. It is not a race to one-up or keep up with other people that you feel like you need to show up. And it's not comparing yourself to other people and where they're at in their life journey, in their financial journey, or anything like that. It is not a comparison between people. What it is it is a way to facilitate discussions where everybody is going to be learning something. It's a way to include money in everyday conversations that we're already having. It's a way to not be afraid of the topic, not to be afraid of money. However, it includes self-monitoring and being appropriate. I mean, there is a time and a place for every kind of conversation, and the same goes for money. Right now, it seems like the time and place for that is nowhere, but I think there is a very important time and place for talking about money, and that is just very, very neglected right now. It is having goals and being honest with people. People want to know what you're doing, what you're trying to do, where you are going, what your goals are. And being honest about these things and maybe a little bit vulnerable is very, very valuable in building your relationships. Talking about money is being supportive of people and their goals and where they're trying to get. It is not trying to one-up people. It is trying to build them up and help them get to where they're trying to go. Talking about money is accepting that everybody is in a different place in their life, in their financial journey, and everybody is moving at their own pace. So this is something that you need to consider whenever you're talking about money. And lastly, talking about money is really just about helping people out and learning from what they're doing and what they can share with you about where they are at in life. So it's really about learning is what talking about money is all about. So I hope these things made it sound like talking about money is something that is beneficial for you. And so now let's talk about why people don't do it. Why don't people talk about money? Why is this something that seems like a topic that is just not allowed in conversations and skirted around at every conversation, at every opportunity? Everybody always skirts around the topic of money and never actually tackles it head on or even starts a conversation that has anything to do with money because they're afraid. And that is, I think, the main reason why people don't talk about money is they're afraid. They're afraid that this is a topic that is taboo, that this is something that you just don't talk about, that you're not allowed to talk about. And this is for a variety of reasons. But firstly, people are afraid that they're going to seem cheap. They're afraid that if they start talking about money, if they start talking about anything related to money, that they're going to sound cheap, that their friends are going to think, wow, all you're trying to do is pinch pennies and you're not giving any consideration to anything else besides money. Because currently, given the lack of conversation about money, any conversation about money seems out of the ordinary, and people are going to associate that with you being cheap or potentially you being selfish. So people are afraid to talk about money because they're afraid they're going to come off as selfish. They're afraid people are going to think that they only care about money, when in reality they're just trying to start a conversation and potentially learn a little bit more about other people and learn a little bit more about how to better manage their money. And I think this really all comes back to how we were raised and how parents generally interact with their kids regarding money. I think there is a lot to be said here about the root of this potential problem that I see in our society right now. So 69% of parents are very reluctant to talk with their kids about money. And this is a massive, massive percentage. This is over 2/3 of parents are very reluctant to talk to their kids about money. And this means that over 2/3 of kids are not going to be getting that financial education that they're needing because their parents are too reluctant to have these conversations with their kids. Additionally, only 23% of kids said that they regularly talk with their parents about money. So this is a very, very low percentage. Under a quarter of kids have regular conversations with their parents about money. And I think this is a huge, huge contributor to the fact that now people are just afraid to talk about money in general. And it just seems like a topic that is so taboo and something that nobody is willing to talk about. So I've got a personal story that sort of illustrates this for me. So looking at me, I'm a white dude, upper middle class, going to a very, very good school. So clearly my financial situation is not too bad. However, my little sister, who's in 3rd grade, asked my mom a very interesting question last week. And that question is, Mom, are we poor? So I think this really puts into perspective just how my little sister, who has been living this lavish life for her entire life, and I mean, we live in a very decent home in a very nice neighborhood, and I mean, she has her own iPad. So I think this really puts into perspective how little parents actually talk with their kids about just the basics of finances and stuff like that. Because the fact that my little sister, who has been growing up in an upper middle class environment for her entire life, was seriously concerned and asking my mom that if we were actually poor. So I think this really just puts into perspective what is going on, and this really just struck a nerve with me and is the main reason why I decided to go out and make this video, because that event was just like very, very eye-opening to me in that we do not have these money conversations. Now, what I'm proposing is not running your 6-year-old through your family's balance sheet and showing them all of your assets, all of your cash flow, your liabilities. That is not what I'm proposing at all. What I propose is that you start slow. You start very, very slow and just sort of ease into financial conversations. Just sort of work in financial conversations where they are comfortable in your conversation. Don't make it awkward. Don't make it abrupt. Just whenever it would smoothly flow into anything related to money or anything like that, instead of skirting around the topic, just go right in and hit the nail on the nose, and don't be afraid to bring up a topic that you think seems taboo, and don't be afraid to bring up a money-related topic that you are afraid to because you think it seems taboo, but in reality, there is nothing taboo or uncomfortable about it. It is just the way that we were raised to think that talking about money was not something that you were allowed to do. And when it comes to kids and talking with kids about finances or the family's finances or anything like that, I think it's very important, and really when you're talking with anybody, it's really important to use ideas and not numbers, because numbers make people very, very uncomfortable if you start talking about how much you make or anything like that, how much you're paying for your mortgage or anything like that. That can make people very uncomfortable very fast, because that is something that you were not accustomed to doing in our society. However, if you use ideas and you explain things through ideas and not through exact numbers, that is going to make people a lot more comfortable and a lot more willing to facilitate a dialogue around the topic of money and around the topic of finances in general if you use ideas and not numbers. So I think that is a very, very valuable way to ease into this money conversation and start it going if you use ideas and not numbers. Lastly, play games. So again, a personal story. When I was a kid, my parents, we played this game where each of us got $10,000 of play money to put into the stock market. We got to invest it however we wanted, and we would write it all down on a piece of paper, and we would check back in every week or two, and after like 6 months, whoever's portfolio had performed the best actually got $100. So the other two people would pay out $50 to the winner. And I think this has actually had a huge impact on the direction of my life, actually, and getting invested in the stock market, getting interested in personal finance. I think little things like this, little games that you can play with your friends, with your family, can actually have a huge impact on the financial decisions that you make throughout your life. So I think it's very important to start young and play some games, make it fun. It doesn't have to be a conversation where you're just like running through, all right, little Johnny, well, I make $60,000 in a year. I pay $4,000 in property taxes. No, that is not fun. Nobody cares about that. Use ideas. Do not use numbers, and play games, because honestly, make it fun, make it engaging, and if it's not an engaging conversation, nobody's going to want to pay attention anyways. All right, so what are the benefits of talking about money? I hope I've convinced you by now that it is something that's valuable, but let's just dive into the benefits anyway. So the main benefit that I see to talking about money is that everybody learns. Everybody learns when you talk about money. Everybody learns what your goals are. You are sharing your goals with people, which makes you significantly more likely to work towards achieving those goals when other people are there to be able to help you and hold you accountable to what you told them you were going to be doing. Next thing people are going to learn is fun ways to increase their income, fun ways to get a side hustle started. I mean, I'm sure so many people are working on side hustles that they're just afraid to talk about with people because they are related to the topic of money, to the topic of finance, and they're like, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about that with people. I think that'll make people uncomfortable. But if you use ideas, not numbers, and you are open with people about what you're doing, what your goals are, I think a lot of people are going to be able to learn a lot about how they can start earning more income on the side through fun ways that they actually want to be doing and stuff that they actually already love to do. Also with that is you can learn fun ways to decrease your spending. So if you just got a cool budget app on your phone, tell people about it. I mean, you are saving money, so why not help them save money too? I mean, there's so many cool budgeting apps that are just amazing that I've been telling people about forever, and I think that it's super valuable to share the ways that you are making additional money and saving additional money, because these two things can greatly improve your ability to start investing and start saving your money in general. Next, you're going to be able to learn what other people know. So everybody knows different stuff, obviously, and everybody knows different financial stuff. So I'm sure there are tons of stuff that your friends know about money that you actually don't, and a bunch of myths that you might believe that they actually know the truth behind. So I'm sure by talking about money and having these open conversations, there's actually a lot to gain from the people around you in terms of what they actually know about money that they could share with you. Next, you can learn about stuff that you could improve. So in hearing about what other people are doing, you can start to internalize some of that stuff and be like, hey, that sounds like a really cool thing to start doing. I think I'm going to start doing that. And I think there's so much beneficial things that you can learn by talking about money with people. Lastly, if you are doing something cool, share it with people. People want to know what you're doing. And if you're doing some cool project or some cool budgeting thing, I mean, share it with people. People want to know what you're up to, what you are doing on a daily basis. So share these things with people. If they're money related, doesn't matter. People want to know what you're up to and what you're doing. So if you're doing something cool, tell people about it because they want to know. So my final words with this topic are just get the ball rolling. Get a conversation started. Start with some ideas. Just weave it into a normal conversation. Instead of skirting around the topic, dive right in and start a conversation. I can guarantee you it's going to be a whole lot less awkward than you expect. And I also guarantee that you will learn a ton by talking with people around you about money, about finances, and there's just so much to learn about money from the people around you. So in closing, talk about money with people. That's all I got. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. Leave a comment below if you enjoyed this type of content or if you want me to go back to the more numbers intensive stuff, and I'll definitely look at that. I will see you guys tomorrow. Share this with a friend, and until next time.